everyone. This time I'm bringing you a Cumbrae budget deck, and we will see how this whole theme works out. This is something I've thought of lately because I realized that a lot of people are interested in budget lists. And I think Cumbrae has some interesting tools to work with, so green and time faction. And we just jump in the first game. I think this should be a redraw. We only have one power, even though we have some one drops. We want something more consistent. We have some spicy units in there like Master at Arms that are usually considered decent draft cards. We go for Cumbrae Banner here first to get the depleted power out of the way, and then hopefully get more undepleted power as we go. We see some kind of Skycrag list as it looks like. I think I'm okay with getting torched here. Should be a prime target for them to torch. And I should probably turn up the sound a little bit. So excuse me for not being as visible lately. I just moved and we got everything set up, and right now I sadly have to use my mobile connection to do anything on the internet. But I hope this will get better as we go. This looks pretty okay for now. We could play just a sigil here, get a free going, and we could buff them as well. The buff is more intermediate damage, and maybe we can make them trade. But let's think about this for a moment, because last time I realized I'm going too fast for my own good. We have Crownwatch Tactic in 2 turns ready since we have 2 more power. We could just develop the Koso Battle Mage, have something on the board that can actually deal with the Rakana Outlaw and is immune to Torch. So I think that's a good call here. We will still attack with this one and see if they are interested in trading, and if they are, we can maybe get some information on their hands. It looks like they have a way of dealing with it, otherwise they would have taken the trade here. They have Piercing Shot, that's really cool. And that worked out with the +1 damage. We should... Things like that that you usually don't see that often could be worthwhile to just say, oh, nice blade, dude. So right now, getting the Koso Battle Mage a little bit bigger could work. We get more damage in. We are close to our Crownwatch Tactic and the Twin Brute Sauropods. See another one. So the Piercing Shot would deal 4 damage right now, which would kill the Twin Brute Sauropod. And they also want to stay on the aggressive side, as it looks like. We are okay with this for now. Gotta be careful soon, because this could potentially hurt quite a bit. Playing the Twin Brute could be good. We could also just play another Koso Battle Mage. So playing the Twin Brute Sauropod right now would make us not being able to get Lifesteal going. They do have 8 damage on the field. So a Piercing Shot would be enough to kill us. I think Koso Battle Mage here again. And maybe we can force a weird trade for them and get rid of 1 damage. They go for it. I think we are okay with this. We have another blocker up here. And we get 5 health in. Nice, that worked. Looks like they would run some amount of burn in a deck like this, so spells that deal direct damage. Looks like they don't want to go for anything right now, so they probably have something to make us feel bad. Which could be Rampage to buff one of their guys up. Which could be another Piercing Shot in the next turn to get rid of the buff here. I think going for this attack first, keeping this guy back for a moment at least, should work. We just see one trade and not much more, so we played this Twin Brute here. We got rid of the extra spell damage, which was a bit annoying and did quite some damage early on. That works. And they surrender. Alright. So yeah, as usual, this deck only contains common and uncommon cards, so everything a new player would be able to craft from the get-go, or most likely already have in their collection. Basic cards or cards that are just easy to get is what a budget deck should be like, and I will continue to focus on this route. I don't want to do weird requirements like only 5 rares or whatever. If you have anything, I will try to offer upgrade lists from now on where it makes sense. In a deck like Compre, it does make sense to offer upgrade ideas. In a deck like the budget Gunslinger deck, which is a thematic deck which already uses most of the best cards that are available to us, I don't think it makes sense to offer big upgrade lists because it already does what it should do, and you can win your fair amount just by playing on tempo and curve. But this deck, I could potentially see very decent upgrade chances, maybe even transforming it into a big Cumbre list in case you do have a lot of stone lying around, not knowing where to toss it, which is probably not very often the case, but maybe we find some people we can help with this. Other than that, this deck looks pretty solid right now. I like Kosu Battle Mage, especially in a budget option. And maybe we should consider even more pump spells for this kind of deck. But for now, this is the list I'm running, and we catch each other in the next game. Next game coming up. We shall see where this brings us. This is a rather conservative hand, but we do have Crownwatch Paladin early on. Don't think this is good enough for keeping though, even though we could draw in everything else. This looks a bit better. We do have the Gilded Glaive this time around, which could do some work, especially on a Crownwatch Paladin. Let's see if it will. Defend the throne.
Tempered by the hottest flame.
Do we actually go for this? I think we do. We get an even bigger Glaive next turn with Empower, making this +2/+2. This could be a problem though. We do get a silence effect, which is nice. I think we could check if they want to go for a trade first. They don't.
That's quite enough.
That's quite enough, my friend. Go down. Okay. That's interesting. At the start of your turn, sacrifice a unit, so you will have to get rid of something there at least. Let's draw a card first. And let's get the Record Keeper. So when you have no units, are you okay then? Or do you have to sacrifice your own guy? I'm not sure, I've never seen that card before. I think we will just find out then.
Magic, not so bad. Magic, not so bad.
Can attack here unimpeded, and we can also go here. Huh. Sacrifice the Grandin, yeah, makes sense. We would die to Rapid Shot as well. Let's see what they do. Rapid Shot would kill me, but I have to hope that they don't have it. We can't afford mob blockers right now. Could see Obliterate in a deck like this as well. Oh my god, he missed lethal. Ah, he missed lethal. You can't extract my face. Uy. Nice, that's the quest done as well. As you can see, just doing the daily quests, getting your rewards in, is good enough to get a decent card stock. Wow, I'm surprised. I think we should tell them. Let's see if we can add them. I feel like a lot of people don't actually know that most spells can go into the face as well. But maybe we can actually tell Banshee 76. Because I think we also would have gotten Nightfall, right? So that could have worked for them. They actually had lethal. Oh. Okay. Then I don't tell you that you had lethal. That's fair. Let's go into the next game. Let's see where we end up with this. We do have Ornamental Daggers, enough power, and Auric Record Keeper. But I think I want something faster. This looks fast. I like fast. Random photo share. Nice. Let's go for Justice Sigil here. Let me quickly get rid of Skype. Skype in 2K18, am I right? Do we go for Crown Watch Standard? I think we have to. But then we can't play Awakened Student. I think we have to do it this way around. Oh, let's get some weapons out there as well. Why not? Okay. Well, that's interesting. We gotta leave that in, but that's obviously not an actual game. Interesting. Well, let's go for game number 3. I think. 4? That was 3. Yuki Yoshi Desu. That sounds like a weeb language to me. We will have to make sure to purge if we can. Crests. Okay. Let's get our guy out there. It's fascinating how many golden cards you accumulate over time. I never crafted any golden card whatsoever, in case you guys are wondering. Never.
Just don't look down.
This could be awkward with some Twin Brood shenanigans coming up, maybe. Oh, there's still hay there. Let's just use that then, I guess. Wouldn't call it stuck right now. At least we can get some more things out there next turn. If we draw power, I would most likely go for the District Infantry and buff that up for a moment. But other than that, I think I would like to get the Koso Battle Mage going. You guys are so cute. Literally no words. It's so amazing, just so many people adding me. Not only because of YouTube, but also because of Twitch and commentating on the tournaments. and it feels so heartwarming. Feels really good. So thank you guys for the support that you show.
You can do this.
I feel like I wanna text back right now, but the last time I did that, it felt like I wasn't concentrating enough or well enough. So Coastal Battle Mage here is pretty decent for us. Just getting it bigger while being protected with the Aegis sounds like a good plan for me. That's what we are gonna pump this guy up as good as we can until we draw more fun stuff to play with. This is fun stuff.
You can do this.
Let's get our Kosu Battle Mage out there. Let's attack here, even though they could just block this. I don't think they are super happy about a 7/7 on the board right now. Okay, just quickly clarified this, because they are worth it. And clarification never hurts. Okay, so Aurelian Merchant with a lot of stuff going on there. That's interesting. And they get another one as well. Unblockable and Berserk with a free. Okay, that's something. Silence the unit. Okay. We draw more cards here. Pretty sure. Xenon Initiation. So if we attack with a Kosu Battle Mage here, they will take this either to the face or block anything. I don't think they want to block right now, though. Do they? They have not much left, but they could use the 0 freeze right now. Or the 2/2s. Okay. Not sure about that one. Let's get the Crown Watch Paladin out there. Crown of Possibilities, alright. Might be a little bit too late. We could just pump this guy up. They don't have enough to get rid of anything here. This, I'm probably make it more complicated than it actually is. But I just wanna focus a little bit more on how I actually play the game and stop doing unnecessary mistakes myself. So just attacking here should be fine. We have a pretty decent clock. I don't understand why they block with a merchant right now. They could just use their 0 freeze. There's nothing that would benefit right now from a double cost reduction by 1.
This ends now.
Oh, it basically didn't matter. Okay, that's fair. That is fair indeed. Let's play the 4th Tree Elder, get some good damage there. If they have some another board clear, which I don't think they would. That works for them. Nice crown tag there with the killer. We have Finest Hour. I think I want to keep Finest Hour up just in case more shenanigans happen.
The first step, innovation.
Unblockable Alessi. That sounds pretty disgusting if you ask me. I could have just attacked first before showing what I have there, yet again. Keep doing it. Especially when I feel like I'm already winning. So yeah, keeping Finasaur up right now just to be prepared against things like maybe Carnosaur, blowing them out while surviving. Even though I think we pretty much got this. What could be coming here? Another merchant, right. Reckless Berserk. Unblockable? That sounds fun. Let's see what they got for us. Wait, could we just see which card they've taken? I want to quickly rewind this and be super concise because that looked like I think I saw the art, but maybe that's because they already played it the moment they drew it.
Just don't look down.
Let's quickly see. Can we change replay speed? Okay.
A customer.
It's the first one, and now we make it slow.
A customer.
Check. Yeah, but it's most likely because they... Oh, because it has Destiny, obviously. Yeah, never mind. But still, that seems weird to me. It does seem weird to me. Start turn. Yeah. Nice. So yeah, interesting little thing there. I think I saw the same yesterday when they took something out of the market. Like, those little hints we can definitely take. Doesn't cost us anything to not go for a small check there. Let's have a look at the deck list, shall we? So let's also use the uncommon and common rarity and see what other options we would have. But first go in this list here. Okay, so as you have seen, obviously the district infantry does some work early on. It gets beaten by other one-shots in pure value just because at some point you don't draw power, especially in aggro deck. We're at 25 power. At some point this will just be a 1-1 on the board, but it could be good enough to get some early blowouts, maybe with Finest Hour or with the daggers, as you've seen in that super quick game. Awakened Student, I don't think we have to add much to, just grows over time. But other than the district infantry, it's not just this turn, but constantly. So whenever you play one power, this gets bigger, and this is absolutely what we like. We could potentially think about adding something that the Alessi decks have been running in the sense of using Safe Return. But in a deck like this, where we actually want to go for tempo and not just hold back because we can prevent blowouts with our spells, which we can't, I don't think it makes perfect sense, even though we could fish for some torches maybe, but we always would need to keep up the 2 power to use the fast spell in the enemy turn, and I think this goes pretty much against what we try to do with this deck. We try to be aggressive early on, we try to push our guys a little bit bigger than they actually are. We got some decent spells in here that are cost efficient for what they do. And yeah, that's pretty much the concept and why I don't think Safe Return would be the perfect fit in this deck. But if you feel like trying it out, go for it. I don't want to hold you back. I want to encourage you to try different things that could work. Crownwatch Paladin, also not much to add, just a super decent stable card. Or staple even, not stable. Staple card in most aggressive decks. And since we're on a budget, decently statted units is what we find at the start of the curve at low mana. If we go higher, the options get worse, the less options in terms of shift stone we actually have. So that's something to keep in mind. Temple Scribe is just there for cantrip. Cantrip basically means a card that replaces itself. And we have a 1-1 body on the board, which is not perfect, and the influence requirements could be iffy at points, just because we do have slightly more Justice Sigils than time. But if we draw like the banners and seats early on, we should have a good time. And if we drop it on 4 and just draw a card and play the second card as well, it's still fine. So the card draw is what we're looking for. The you gain 1 health is okay, but not detrimental to our game plan whatsoever. Auric Record Keeper is just a decently statted unit yet again. It's a bit too strong nearly for its costs. But the Entomb effect also helps us, maybe even buffing our Crownwatch Paladin or Awakened Students. It's basically like giving an Ornamental Dagger to one unit. And 4/4 for free is pretty decent, and we can absolutely live with this and take this. Also a nice target for Finest Hours or Seed Initiations in case we need to get rid of some big blockers in the way. Koso Battle Mage is mostly seeing play in Draft or the Seed League, but I think right now for what we have in our decks, this does quite some work as you've seen. The +1/+1 we can trigger not too often, but we have 8 circumstances or incidents where we can. Other than that, it's just an annoying unit to get rid of because of the Aegis, and this is why I put it in there. So we have 2 Aegis units early on, which will make it significantly worse or harder for the enemy to get around them. Master at Arms, I think the Aegis minions or units we run and have in this deck should be the prime target for the +2/+2. We could also obviously go for different things, but Aegis just makes it so we're super safe. In case of Archive Curator, if you got any Valkyrie Enforcers, let's quickly check Valkyrie Enforcer while getting rid of the rarity. Oh, Valkyrie. If you got any Valkyrie Enforcers lying around while opening packs, or you just have some of them, feel free to toss as many as you have in place of the Archive Curator in, because the free mana cost of the Valkyrie Enforcer with the same effect makes it strictly better. You could even argue that the Archive Curator could be better in a deck like this just because it doesn't die to Torch. But the free attack is way more aggressive than the one attack and 4 health from the Curator. So at your own convenience or discretion, try cards out that you have and you feel like could fit. Also, wow, he looks unproportionally big considering his head is so small. I never realized that before. Super massive, that guy. Twin Brute Sauropod is basically cheap refill for us because we will deplete our hand rather quickly if we get our curve going. So getting something we can play in 2 different turns while trying to build up cards back in our hand could work, and it does quite some work in the sense of pushing through. It dies to Vanquish and makes people maybe more aware of our board state. They want to get rid of the 5/4 as soon as they can. But since we draw 2, we can always keep 1 back and try to bait some removal out first before we go super hard on the board and commit with everything we have. So you could potentially even put 3 or 4 in here. Maybe not 4, just because it makes your hand clunky. We already run 4 Echo Ornamental Daggers. So if you want to go for more Twin Brutes, I would probably cut 1 or 2 here. Just because it could be an actual problem that your hand gets too clunky and you have to discard or maybe miss a draw because you have too many cards in your hand. Fourth Tree Elder, as you've seen in game 1, I think it was, is just an extremely solid card. And the Flying Endurance tag makes it extremely worth it. Like, it's not a Carrier, even though the stats are pretty much the same. But having something that we can defend ourselves with and attack in the same time is just extremely good. Sadly, he doesn't have Aegis or any other more ridiculous keywords, but I think this is nearly as good as we can get it right now. And I think if you are on an extreme budget like this list tries to help you out with, um, this card pretty much carries you, especially against opponents that are also on a budget or haven't quite all the cards that they want to assemble for their deck. Let's quickly talk about why we don't run a card like Seek Power in this deck. Because usually when you have a 2-faction or also 3-faction deck, you try to incorporate a card like Seek Power so you get more consistent draws. But the fact that we are basically an extreme aggressive version of something that already runs on ladder, we basically replaced all the perfect cards that the actual ladder deck uses, like the Alessi Combri deck or the Big Combri deck, and tried to put in as many efficient units as we possibly can while being on a budget. So, as you can see, the 25 power seems a little light, especially since we had problems in our games with actually playing our minions. But if we get our early aggression going through the consistency of the attachments and spells we have in our deck, not adding Seek Power basically gives us less stat draws, if that makes sense. Obviously, you could cut whatever you feel like, maybe even a unit, and get Seek Power in just to get consistently get consistent power draws in there, especially if you redraw your hand. But I think our aggression is good enough to push through and not get punished by not running Seek Power. If you aim for something that has a higher curve, as you can see up here is the curve indicator. If we have more mid-range and top-end units, I would definitely recommend running Seek Power, and maybe even more power to begin with, like 27 or 26, just to increase the odds of you having less dead starting hands. But in our case, I think we are okay with running 25 without Seek Power. If you want to experiment yet again, please go for it. There's no reason not to try out different versions or ideas that you have. But let's quickly check and assume you guys are moving away from a budget and you want to see what options you would have to make this a more convenient deck maybe, or to make it stronger in general. We could definitely see Crest of Progress in this deck, just seeing if you have enough power, you get the Scout off and can put the power down on the bottom of your deck, maybe getting more threats going or lining them up better. But Crest in general and depleted power in general in aggressive decks feels awkward because you lose tempo even though you get further ahead in the power curve, but you don't get the power immediately, so you lose tempo by not playing your mana perfectly. Alessi Cumbrae Archmage could work here in this deck, absolutely. There's the shell and the idea is the same as the actual Alessi deck on ladder. If you lack other cards from the Cumbrae Alessi deck, feel free to toss her in for maybe even the Distract Infantry. And let's move from here. Stand Together, I don't think has to be mentioned anymore. In case you played the last month or last 3 to 4 weeks, it's pretty much the card with the most hate on it, just because it prevents basically Hailstorm and Harsh Rule. And it's rather cheap for what it offers, even though if free, you just as with mentioned with Safe Return earlier, you need to keep this open, the free mana costs, whenever you plan on blowing your enemy out by surprising them with a Stand Together. Also, just to mention this, if you play against more experienced players, if you move up the ladder with any deck, people will usually know what you're up to when they see your colors or combinations that you run. So when people see green and yellow, they know that Stand Together is an option that will most likely hit the board at some point. So just be aware that this could be the case, and people playing around and giving you a hard time. Copperhole Elite is something that I've seen from Cross. He is a German player who was participating in the ECL in the Eternal Community League. And he was overrunning me with Copperhole Elites and Sword of Unity, which we will show in a second, pretty efficiently. So if you get the dust or get this card lying around in your collection, feel free to add the Copperhole Elite to your deck. And I think at this point we might be okay with dropping Master at Arms, or maybe even Temple Scribe. District Infantry I would keep in case you don't replace it with Alessi, because having something early to play that is not Awakened Student and you want to keep safe, if you can afford to, makes you lose a lot of tempo. So try to start cutting at the same mana or power curve where your other unit you try to add in comes to. Even though the Copperhole Elite is 4, dropping either Master at Arms or Archive Curator, or maybe even a 4th Tree Elder or two to get the or to make place or Ornamental Daggers. It's basically your call. You don't change too many things by changing around the order or whatever. Maybe you can just pick 2 here or 2 here. We got the same shells they're going, but we got 4 cards more. So that's definitely something to think about here. Compre Emissary looks decent, but Gerald also looks decent, but they don't fit what we're trying to do with this deck, so I wouldn't consider them. Also, just to make sure, if you can see those weird things around the card, it usually means that you can find the card in a campaign, which we can see here as well. So just in case you're wondering what those things up here mean, you can't destroy them. They're basically locked in place. Let's have a quick look. Champion of Progress doesn't make sense in a deck like this. We don't run enough power, and I think it's too vulnerable to silence and other things. So that was the multi-faction cards. Let's have a quick look at the actual green cards that could work in a deck like this. Sheriff Mali always deserves at least a mention, in my opinion. She gives you the option of getting more 1/1 tokens with her effect. You have to pay 3 mana and create a 1/1 guy. Especially if you start to run markets later on, this will be super valuable. The tribute effect happens sometimes. You can play around trying to make bad trades. Sometimes the enemy bites, sometimes they don't. If they think they know what you're playing, you can surprise attack them with Sheriff Mali and the silence. But other than that, I don't think there's anything that super fits this deck. I don't think we want Harsher in this deck, ever. Just because we run a lot of units, and if we lose the board once, we will have a hard time coming back to it. Different than Recano lists with Ikari as finisher, which makes it actually pretty decent to Harsher at some point. Crownwatch Press Gang is a card that has seen play in Alessi decks quite frequently in most lists. I think 99% of them run Crownwatch Press Gang. So this is definitely something you can consider in a deck like this, even though you don't run Alessi, just to thin out your deck, draw more cards, keep it going. Definitely interesting choice, and the Revenge makes it even more interesting because it will come back in the next 10 draws and give you some good redraw. Hammer of Might would be an interesting budget option. I don't think any Alessi player that has all the cards available to them would ever put this in their deck. But I could see this being a 1 or 2 of, maybe 2 of in case of Gilded Clave or Ornamental Daggers. It doesn't do the same, but it's a bit more strong, or stronger in general, so that could definitely work. Auric Runehammer, you could consider basically every weapon that is a standard weapon like Auric Runehammer or sort of Icaria, which you can't run in those colors sadly, are definitely worth to think about at the moment. So if you're playing around with those thoughts, definitely try it out. Unseen Commando, if you're not on a budget, seems like a really good pick for this deck. We have some units that have more than one, even the Crownwatch Paladin, which would line up in curve, playing this on 2 and the Unseen Commando on 3. Definitely a high value card and a high removal target for your enemy. When they see this getting chopped, they most likely want to kill it as soon as possible. And that's super interesting, especially keeping our other units safe from removal. As mentioned, Valkyrie Enforcer could do some work here instead of the Archive Curator or Master Dams, so definitely consider those. Order of the Spire is really strong, but you need to keep it safe. If you can't keep it safe, you're basically wasting a slot in your deck, hoping that it will go off at some point. I wouldn't recommend using this, especially if you're new and you have it lying around. It could make you feel maybe it leads a lot to be desired. Let's put it that way, and you might lose interest sooner or later, even though the deck is nice, just because this never gets through. Other than that, in draft, this card is amazing. When the opponent needs to answer and they don't have it, you basically win. Winchest Merchant would be one option for the merchants that we can run in this deck. The other one being the Time Merchant that I will showcase in a moment. Winchest Merchant has some obvious things that make it worthwhile, which would be putting Vanquish in the market and Harsh Rule in case you would ever need it. But you would need to be able to read the game rather efficiently and well to be able to realize when you need to pull a Harsh Rule out of there while you still have the board. But you know that you will lose the board in like 2 turns just to get back on it. But as mentioned, I wouldn't recommend running Winchest right now. Let's quickly check what else we could use from green. Rilgon's Disciple could work, but I think we need a bit more spells to really get him going. As you can see, the stat line is decent with a 2/3 for 2. So even if you don't treat the text, it's a decent card to put in for 2 mana. So if you feel like you want to try around with it and maybe add more spells like Stand Together or other cheap spells that can work, definitely try it out. We get to time. Xenon Obelisk doesn't really, like, it does a lot of things in this deck and it will strengthen our deck quite a bit, but we don't really aim to get at 8 power or more. We don't run any maximum power units right now in this deck. So getting to 8 will be super, super late in the game, and if we haven't won the game at 8, we most likely lose it soon after. Marison's Disciple is a decent budget option, in case you can call a rare card budget option. But you just get 2 cards. You get 2 cards for 1 for 4 mana, which is decent and okay. Most of the time people go for the Sandcrawler, the free mana, free card. Every other option is viable at different stages of a game or in different matchups. So definitely something to consider here. Again, I would probably start at cutting Master at Arms and Archive Curator, just because Master at Arms is easy to counter with a torch and just dice to it. So you don't necessarily always have the effect up and running. The Time Merchant, Aurelian Merchant, is extremely potent just because of the 1 maximum power and the other cards we could put in the deck, which would be, let's actually keep going for a moment, then we will talk about that. So yeah, Aurelian Merchant is what I would recommend in a deck like this. We can put in a lot of goodies like the Sword of Unity, which sees a lot of play. Maybe not as much anymore since the Alessi nerfs have happened. A Marin Stinger is interesting just because of the charge, and we get these Scorpion Traps, which will give us a 1/1 Scorpion with Deadly on our field. If you have those lying around, just put them in, check them out. I haven't used them yet since, as you can see, I have only 1 copy of it. But definitely a cool card to play around with, especially if you're new and you got 1 or 2 lying around. Put them in, see what works or what doesn't work. Other than that, I don't think there's that much more to showcase here. Let's quickly go to the legendary cards and check what we could use there. Venom Rider could work in a deck like this. It's a cheap minion or unit with a charge and deadly, so it immediately gets the payoff. The ultimate makes us pay 5 and we take 1/1 off and get a small scorpion with killer and deadly, which is basically removal 1 time. Interesting card if you have the campaign. Just throw it in there, try it out if you like it or not. Sandstorm Titan I don't think needs to be mentioned, but I will want to do it anyways. Decent creature, 6 stats, 4 power costs. If you got him, put it in there. And as again, start somewhere here with cutting. World Bearer Behemoth, if you go into the bigger territory of the big boys and you don't want to play around in the budget region anymore, you can basically use pretty much every single time legendary you can see here. All head does work and needs to be answered immediately. People get PTSD the moment they see him drop on the board. They want to get rid of him immediately just because it's double the health and attack of your units you draw is ridiculous and absolutely nuts. But also, let's consider what would happen with our deck if we decide to put in all the time units. We would basically lower our curve in the early game. We would probably take out quite some things here. We will keep the Awakened Student pretty much, but we will move into a mid-range deck with the 4, 5, 6 slots, maybe even late game slots, and will use less early game, so you would need other things to cover that weakness yet again. So just be aware, if you put in all those big guys like this, let's quickly see what happens to our curve. Let's get rid of this. Let's get rid of this. Let's get rid of this. As you can see, we have significantly more late game this time around. So we will need something to make us get there in the first place. If we play against other aggressive units or decks, we will have a hard time getting to 6 mana without doing much. As you can see, this is quite heavy. Obviously, you would probably cut something like this, and it looks a little bit better. But just be aware that when you go for a plan like this, you need to accommodate for other things to make you come back into the game. You will need strong units on every curve, which means on every single slot you will most likely need the best units you can have. You need a strong mid game with things that can save you from strong enemy units like the Sandstorm Titan. Does an amazing job at just sitting there. He needs also to be answered nearly immediately, otherwise he has a 5-turn clock, which means in 5 turns the enemy is dead if they don't get rid of it and let the damage hit their face. So yeah, I hope, let's not take this too long actually. Let's have a quick look at Sword of Unity. This card is busted. If you have it lying around, put it in the deck. You can't do anything wrong by adding this. You get a stand together for 2 if you have 6 mana. This is the new keyword Spellcraft. We need 4 mana to play this card and to double influence in time and justice. We get Lifesteal Overwhelm and a +2/+2 on the creature we want to use. Put it on. And if we pay 2 more mana, so 6 in total, we also get a +1/+1 and Aegis on every single unit on our board. So if you got the Sword of Unity lying around, put it in there and feel good about yourself because this card is busted. Great Parliament, same thing again. Try it out if you feel like. You won't get much payoff because we don't go for super high amounts of mana or power, so we won't get like 4 or 5 owls ever. But you could sometimes get 1 or 2 owls, which could be good enough for a 4 mana cost. Night Chancellor Seraph would basically mean that you have a late game plan in case things go wrong. Her effect is that you pay 8 power or 8 mana and you exhaust her so she can't attack, no block. But you get a random time or justice unit, maybe even combined, and it has double the health and attack. So definitely a cool card to play around with, a lot of fun. And you can play her on curve and have a decently statted unit on curve as well if you don't care much about the 8 power pay effect. And if she sticks around till turn 8 and you can go for it, that's nice, but nothing that needs to be perfectly done. Martial Ironthorn, if you want to go into the big Combri as it's called on ladder, is amazing because when this is on the board and you play a power card, you basically get 2. So if you play a crest, which lets you scout, you also get to scout twice. So when you play this on 5 and you play 1 power card, you are at 7 mana. This is what we call ramping. Definitely a nice card if you want to go for this. But make sure that you decide in which way you want to take this whole thing. Either go for mid-range or go for an aggressive Alessi style of plan. I don't think mashing the two together would be... Like, you can still do it and get decent results, I'm sure, just because most cards are busted that are in the deck at the end. But I would consider going for one game plan directly instead of trying both things and weakening both things at the same time. So try to understand where you're going. You now have like the budget option, and you also know what this deck could look like once you're done with all the farming and getting enough Shiftstone going. And if you're still there in the hustle right now, don't give up. It's not hard to get a decent deck in Eternal. They are super generous with their rewards. Just keep playing, and I'm pretty sure you can get some really, really fun deck in no time. Just stay dedicated. And if you have questions or you want to ask something specific, feel free to hit me up in game or on the YouTube channel or wherever you can find me. And make sure to use the Reddit because people are actually there to help other people. Even though we have some trolls on there, people are most likely gonna help you in case they got time and can answer the questions you have. So that is enough for today. Thank you very much for sticking around in case you have. I appreciate every single one of you supporting and showing interest in my content, and I hope I can keep delivering this content to you guys. See you soon. Hello there, and welcome to maybe a new series that I'm thinking about at the moment. Maybe some of you have seen that I'm writing articles for the Eternal Post, and we're currently trying to find different ways to showcase budget decks for different audiences. And especially if you're a new player, you could definitely use some tested and also well proven concepts in a budget deck, and this is what this is trying to do at this moment. We are only using common and uncommon cards, so everything that you don't own can be crafted for a very cheap price, which is one of the conditions for a budget deck that has to meet basically. And we try to use concepts that have proven to work out rather well. So this deck right here is called Budget Film. And the basic game plan is to play well-statted, fast, aggressive units on curve as long as we are allowed to. We're starting out rather aggressively with a 1 mana 2/2, even though it requires 2 influence. Most of the time we can meet those influence requirements by playing a Seed of Cunning or a Feln Banner. Sometimes we do lose tempo and we can't get the Twilight Raptor out in turn 1. But that is absolutely fine. We're not required to do so, but we can then drop it later the moment the curve allows us to drop it. Left-Right Ranger is a rather interesting unit, especially if you have some kind of recursion in your deck, like, for example, Dark Return or even Haunting Scream, as we use here. And the Infiltrate +2/+2 is extremely aggressive. We have a 2 mana drop with a 1 influence requirement for 4/4 basically, and that's extremely strong. And this can win us the early game against other aggressive decks, or even controlish decks that can't find an answer for this exact card. Because if we get the Infiltrate off, we dodge Torch, for example, which is a very often run card in the meta right now, or in general, since it's just very solid. Left-Right Target Caller, I'm not very sure of yet, but getting a quick draw on Left-Right Ranger or Territorial Elf is extremely strong. So the deal about Left-Right Target Caller is that's mostly used in draft, but right now with a very limited card pool on your side, using cards that are doing well in draft is a good thing to do, and you should actively keep an eye out for cards that do well in a limited format, as long as you don't have better options right now. And as I mentioned, the quick draw effect allows you to kill the blocking unit without taking damage back in case you win the trade. So if we have a Territorial Elf, it doesn't matter if it has 5 health or 3 health. As long as we kill the target, our Territorial Elf will live. And the Berserk is extremely interesting at this point because we do run Haunting Scream, just mentioning that yet again. So every unit that costs 4 or less gets summoned back from our void and gets charge and flying, so also added evasiveness to our minion. So in case the Territorial Elf died early on, we can easily Haunting Scream it back and get some easy damage in, especially considering that we run Rapid Shot, which gives +4 attack, for sometimes unseen damage coming in. The Unseen Agent, talking about unseen, is basically here for additional card draw, because the Nightfall draws us a second card. And we also deal 1 damage to the enemy face, which doesn't sound like a lot, but if we get multiple chains off, it does provide some damage and a faster clock for us, basically. And clock refers to the amount of turns we need to kill our enemy player in case nothing changes on the board. Even though it's rather unspectacular with the 1/1 stat line, the fact that it's unblockable basically means that we get a lot of chip damage in through the Nightfall and through the attacks. And in the worst case, it's just a blocker to give you 1 more turn to get your damage in instead. Gorgon Fanatic is rather interesting because of the fact that if we get the Infiltrate off and connect with the enemy face, we draw 3 cards, which is quite a heavy amount for a 3 mana card, basically. And we also get some health in order to stabilize in case we need it. But the health is most likely something that doesn't tackle us too much. It's a nice to have thing, but nothing that we actively look for right now, since we try to be the aggressor in the matchups. We also have, since we're talking about card draw effects right now, we have four strategizers and four wisdom of the elders in here right now. And this looks like a heavy amount. You can probably cut some of these to 2-2 maybe and get some more territorial elves in there. But just for added consistency of the deck and the game plan that we're trying to set up right now, I think running some card draw is nice, especially since we have some hidden synergy in this deck with all the different nightfalls and things like that. We run psionic savants or savants. You will later see that I'm not quite sure on how to pronounce this yet, but let's just call it psionic for now. Whenever we draw cards, this flying unit gets +1/+1, and if this snowballs out of control, it's basically like the Justice card Hero of the People, but doesn't have a limit in that sense that at some point Hero of the People has all the things on it and doesn't grow bigger. So the longest we provide card draw, which we also do through the Nightfall, Psionic Savant will grow. It's rather easy to kill with stuff like Annihilate, so keep an eye out for that. Kill a unit with a single faction, and Psionic Savant would be dead in return to a 2-mana card. But that is fine. Not everything gets through all the time, and we need some kind of bomb in a budget deck to win our game for us in case our early aggression doesn't go on. Maybe you can cut this to 2 or 3 maybe. 3 feels like a bastard son all the time because it doesn't show that you're completely committed, but also feels good for you because you can squeeze something else in there, which I'm not a big fan of. So play around with it. If you like it, leave it in there. Otherwise, maybe run only 2 and really treat it as a bomb you draw in the late game. But if you do get this out on turn 5 while having a board on your own, and without getting much repercussion from the enemy, this thing is basically free to grow while you do damage with your other units, which we have plenty of. Also, just to mention, if left-right target caller gets a quick draw on it, we have quite some battle in the air coming up. This card could potentially, if given some time, deal with anything in the air, as long as it's not outright removed from the game. But as you will see in the games that I showcase, Psionic Savant did quite some work, and it never really got answered because the opponent needed answers early on to deal with our aggression. So that's also a nice point to make here. Being aggressive early on might make our opponent use their stuff early on, which doesn't make sense, but also makes our stuff in the back or in the late game more safe as well. Let's quickly talk about the left-right Darkstalker. This is kind of a hit and miss card sometimes, but most of the time it's sometimes 8 damage, sometimes only 4 depending on enemy blockers. But since we rather consistently get off the Nightfall, we can nearly guarantee that this is gonna be a free mana 4/4 most of the time, but it is sadly rather bad against silencing units, which we do see quite a bit of in the meta. But if it doesn't get answered, this card itself is gonna be pretty amazing and a bomb. Also, another card I want to mention here, but it doesn't quite fit the theme for myself and I don't really necessarily like it, maybe that's the way to put it, is Duskraider. Duskraider gives your units you draw Berserk and also triggers Nightfall, so you will draw 2 cards the moment your turn starts next time. So this could potentially be interesting if you want more Inspire synergy. The problem though is, I think running either Duskraider or left-right target caller is a good idea. Running both could hinder us in our own way, just because if we have 3 or 4 units out there that we don't actually want to touch and only have a 2/2 stat line, we won't get much done basically. So left-right target caller for now is the choice for the deck, but feel free to experiment and don't just take this list as it is. Try, maybe you want to add some more power because you feel yourself power staffed all the time. Feel free to experiment with your own choices. Maybe take the aggressive shell from this deck, especially with the Haunting Scream, Annihilates, and Rapid Shots, and then give it your own swing, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Also, in case you were wondering, Eileen, Queen of the Wilds, is the card you unlocked after the campaign. So every player does have one Eileen, Queen of the Wilds in their collection after they got through the through the campaign. And we're not necessarily looking for the effect that after we play a blue spell, we get an additional blue spell from the deck. If it ever works, nice. I think, yeah. We just use this card as a flying 6/6, and in case we ever get to 8 mana and have her in hand, we can just drop her and she might win us the game outright at this point. But I don't think she's necessary. But I also know that a lot of new players like to play with big fatty creatures, and I kind of want to satisfy that need as well in this deck. So if everything goes wrong and you don't get to where you want to be, and you can play Eileen, make sure to drop her, and she can most likely guide you to win. I will also make sure to most likely include the other legendaries you get for free in the other budget decks, just because they're a lot of fun to play around with. And if it doesn't work out for you, hey, you just right click on this card text here and you get rid of her and you add another territorial elf and you're good to go. But for now, I think Eileen is a decent choice here. Nothing too spectacular, nothing too bad. We basically just drop her when we get her. And damn, I left the screen. Let's go back here real quick. Just to make sure that you meet your requirements early on. Sometimes you have games where you draw like only Shadow Sigils and no banners and no primal. We run Diplomatic Seal just so you can always have the influence requirements you need. It's maybe a bit over the top, because in a Rakano deck where you need like 2 green and 2 red to trigger the extra effect from the Champion of Glory, it does make sense. But just for consistency's sake, I decided to run Diplomatic Seal, also so you can learn how to actively use and how to decide on which color to take. Because you can see you have like Primal in hand. Oh, I should probably use Diplomatic Seal here and go for Shadow, and make sure that I have the influence requirements I need for later on. So I think this is a fun card to play around with, just like the deck itself. And I hope that you like the idea that I'm trying to show you here. And if you have feedback, please let me know. And maybe even tell me what cards you put in or put out and decided to swap around and how it worked for you. Thank you very much for your attention this far, and I got some cool games for you in stock this time around. This time I actually started with recording first and then actually checking the list, because I was not sure myself if I want to leave the list as it is right now. But it looked rather promising. I think I have 1 lose in the games I showcased, and I showcased 4 games after this walkthrough, basically. So yeah, have a good one, guys, and enjoy and have fun. Alright, and we find ourselves in our first game to showcase the Felon budget deck. And this hand looks interesting, but we are lacking quite some power, so we will draw again and hope to find another hand like this. This looks decent. This could be worked with, indeed. Let's say hello to our enemy, our opponent. And see where this might end up for us. Setting up the microphone. Okay, we got both requirements met. I think it would be beneficial to play the left-right target caller out here right now. And I just realized I have to put in the English language yet again. So sorry for that. I'm afraid we have to play like this for now. Ooh, nice draw there. This could work rather well, depending on what the enemy has right now. We can kill both right now. Very easy. Looks like it's some kind of ramp deck, probably with a bigger high end. Not gonna block here anything. Thank you. And I think we're gonna play on curve here.
You look lost.
Let's go. Attack in. We could see a harsh rule next turn, which would be fine, I guess. Instead we see a Lumen Defender, and they wanna keep attacking with this minion right now, which is fine. We get our Unseen, which will trigger Nightfall. And I mean, they can block one here. I don't really mind that much. They can even block two here. That's fine. We connect with the Fry Ranger, which gives us the infiltrate effect of +2/+2.
Safe try.
Having quick draw on this right now would be nice, but we don't, so we gotta work around that. We have quite a lot of card draw in this deck, so maybe we can draw something nice. The Scream kind of does it, but Annihilate does it just as much. We do have quite some damage here. I think we go for this plan right about now and see what we will have to sack. They could double block. They do decide to double block here. That's a fair call by Erinfall. We do get some stuff back. Oh, look at that. All the good stuff here. Nice. Let's get the left right ranger out and maybe even the bird. I mean, we could get swept right now, but it wouldn't be too big of a deal just because we have Haunting Scream in hand already. We do see Chalice come down though. That's interesting. I think we're gonna use our stuff just for an attack here. We would have a potential lethal next turn by Haunting Screaming the Territorial Elf.
How can I serve?
It has Flying and Berserk as well as Charge, so we'll deal 6 damage if it's unanswered. And it looks like our enemy is running quite a budget list of Chalice themselves, using the Kapahal Porter, but an Aurelian Merchant. So they could find an answer here, but it's not gonna be enough. So the aggressive plan worked out quite a bit. And I will get to turn off the German language right now and be back in a second. And we are back in game number 2. This hand does look decent, but yet again we have the power problem, so we will redraw this. And our enemy is called Eternal Card Game. That's a rather nice username. Very humbling indeed for Direwolf Digital to see someone adapt their name as their in-game tag. We could have different plans for this right now, but considering that we are on the aggro plan, we will play out our minions first before we start redrawing. We also get some Nightfall chain going with the left-right Darkstalker next turn, most likely. And we decided that this is the right play indeed. Drawing cards yet again later on in case we run out of stuff. Right now we should try to punish our opponent if they don't have valuable plays to make. We see the Silence come down on the 0-4. Sadly, since the card text is gone now, she's gonna be a 0-4 for the rest of the game. Until we decide to buffer up with Rapid Shot, which we would have to do before we declare an attack, since a unit without attack cannot attack. Yet again, left-right target caller coming down here. Since we know that our opponent can't really block this guy right now, they could still come down with a Desert Marshal, which is an ambush unit, and it could silence the effect off. But right now we feel kind of safe to go for Strategize, and seeing the colors our opponent is playing, we will assume from here on that they will have some kind of big finishing units, maybe even some beefy mid-range units like Sandstorm Titan. Copper Hole Elite could be something that comes down here. I think the right call is to get the Psionic 7'd up right now, which we will do. We keep going for the 1 damage here. And later on we can buff the Psionic 7 quite a bit by drawing cards, which we will do in just a bit. We can see our opponent is going for his own aggressive strategy. I think I don't mind getting rid of the 0-4 here, so we just take 1 damage for this turn. I think that should be fine. We do see that the first thing is getting triggered, and we will trigger even more right now by drawing cards. And we see another Darkstalker as well, which is nifty. We will get it out right now, and we will attack with those 2 units, putting the pressure on our opponent. We see Minotaur Ambassador coming down, drawing more sigils from the deck directly. And even though it's a big unit, we don't mind them attacking us right now. We could have lethal here. We have 6. Yeah, we do have lethal, indeed. Should we go for the stylish lethal, though, is the actual question. We'll attack here. Most likely not. Let's just go for it the normal way. There could still be something coming down. Buff this up. 14 into the face. Very nice indeed. So just to recap, we're only running common and uncommon cards. We use Eileen as our big finisher in case we draw her in time. Sadly, since this is a budget deck, we can't suspect much more. And I don't want to say like, yeah, but you have to craft X, Y, and Z to make this competitive. Obviously, you can make quite some changes to this deck to make it nice or to make it real good. But to get a good head start into the game, this deck could work rather well. Especially the Nightfall theme seems rather interesting. And I know there are some decks around here that use it already. Also with Haunting Scream. But this hand, I think we will redraw even though we have 2 power. I want to make sure I have something to play early on. This looks meh, but I guess it's kind of fair enough. Also, I have to make sure that I will close the window in a moment. It's still extremely hot in Germany, and I kind of have to leave it open, otherwise I might die just because it's so loud, so warm. But yeah, let's develop the strongest unit first. We could have gone for additional Nightfall triggers, and as we can see, our opponent does have a quick spell to answer this, which is fine. Let's get it out of the way anyways. I think we have a longer staying power than our opponent. Also, this way we can provide an additional Nightfall for the Lefray Darkstalker. Even though it looks like our opponent doesn't want us to have another one. Which is fine, just as much. We draw sigils right now, which is not what we want. But sometimes you do have to lose. It's kind of nice that we got the Raptor just there, because we do have a quick shot in hand. So I'm pleased to see this right now. Ooh. I think I can understand why you would do this strategy right there, just to draw cards. But I think having something on the board would have been better right now. Even though, does it get it back? He does get it back. That's probably why then. Nice streamer, Mr. Streamer. I think we're gonna just set up our Psionic 7 yet again. Maybe we can get some more removal out of them before we commit super hard. But it looks like we don't. Maybe? I mean, this is a legit strategy. It also looks pretty budget for me. But that's fine. We haven't lost quite yet. We had some awkward start here in this game, which can happen sometimes if you play something that's not yet very consistent. The 7th. I think it might be time to hold back, do we? I think just drawing more cards here could be the right answer or right thing to do. Let's put the Shadow Sigil down. We have a 6/6 now, so our opponent could kill us with a torch or some rapid shot of their own. A Death Strike also does it. And I think we congratulate our opponent here at this point and let them have the win, which they deserved. Well played. Next time we would need a faster start. We are in game number 3 against Treefitty, which is a funny name. We have quite a bit of effects in the hand. We have 3 power, but I think I want some proactivity instead, so let's redraw this. And I think I like this better already, even though we only have 2 sigils in hand, or 2 power to play. Which could be fine though. Let's be friendly. A worthy opponent.
You look lost.
Not sure what this is about right now.
You look lost.
Get our stuff going. We know for a fact that Argentport doesn't run Hailstorm, so we are happy to play our units here. We could expect a harsh rule at turn 5, so most likely 2 turns from now. We see a depleted banner right now, which could be used just to get it out of the way. But I think we're gonna just try to push as much as we can as long as we have the time for it. We already did quite some damage. So if they have another sigil and a harsh rule, it would have made sense for them to play the depleted power in the last turn, which they did, so keep that in mind in case you don't know about the sequencing yet. We could probably make a video on sequencing. I think since we are trying to be proactive here, just drawing another power maybe would be good enough for us. We do find another power. And we will keep going and digging. We will put down the... I think the Wisdom here. You have some follow-up units. Excuse me. We have some follow-up units in the Psionic 7s. We have quite some redraw with Haunting Scream with evasion. Even if a harsh rule comes down this turn, this won't be enough to help our opponent. The Falchion does quite a bit though. Interesting. They will heal for 11. That's quite some damage. I think setting up this guy here should be fine. We will attack with those and keep our 1/1 for blocking. Our Psionic Savant. Oh, I should probably ask someone who knows how to pronounce the names first before recording videos. Let's just call it the Psionic for now, so not embarrassing myself too much. We will block here. They are all in on 1 unit right now, so we can just get another unit for blocking, which is a fair thing to do here. I think we have 8, 10, 12 on board right now. Let's get some more Nightfall triggers going so our dude gets bigger. And let's even draw some cards beforehand. Let's drop the Psionic. Let's go all in here. In case they have something to be evasive right now, that all-in plan on one unit actually worked out for them. I could see something like this being run. And it would also make a lot of sense to run something like this. But sometimes you just have a game where you have to decide on how to stabilize, and that was kind of their plan here. Maybe they don't. I mean, we still had quite some pressure on there super early on. Which is nice if you just play decent minions on decent curves. Oh, come on, man. Give me a break. That life stealing here. Unheard of. Kill a unit with a single faction though. That's gonna be their downfall most likely. Yes, it is indeed. We have quite some stuff here. Let's just play the Darkcaller. Darkstalker even. And get them even closer to lethal. Now it's Harsh Rule or bust for them, and even if they Harsh Rule here, they have nothing left to answer our Haunting Scream. Which I would always treat as something to come back to in case our units are down. Even Tafrod is not enough to save you here. Death has arrived, I think. That was a nice match. I like that Trifidi decided to hit back instead of just hiding behind a wall or whatever. It was an aggressive game plan that gets destroyed rather easily if your opponent has the one answer they need. Sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you stabilize off of this, and they don't have any blockers left, and you just have to get trades in and heal up yourself. And I had quite some games where this proved to work for me as well. So that was a nice strategy. I like that they adapted on the fly, most likely at least. Maybe it's their game plan to get one unit out and pump them up with weapons. But I don't think a traditional Argentport deck does. Since this is a budget deck, I decided to add another game just to give some more insight on how to pilot it and maybe how to tackle different problems that could arise in games like we saw earlier. Losing is not a bad thing, and you can for sure get some wins early on in casual mode just to sustain yourself. But in case you have problems or anxiety with the ladder and feeling that you only get owned every single time when you enter, don't fret, because it's most likely not because of the cards you use, it's just because of the experience you lack at this moment. So getting that experience in at some point will help you more than getting the best deck and the best stock lists from Eternal Warcry or whatever. Getting a sense of the game and what tempo actually means and how tempo works will help you significantly more than playing or piloting the best deck without you knowing what you're actually doing. So I think this is a nice starting point to get going. This deck has powerful removal effects, this deck has powerful minions, and a very nice starting point to just get your first experience going. As we can see right now, the left-right target caller is coming down, but we also see that we're kind of screwed with mana right now, which could prove bad here, but we do get the quick draw Territorial Elf, which is nice. So I think, since I really enjoy doing budget decks and just brewing in general, that I will have to do more of these in the future. Maybe if you liked it, let me know what colors or faction you are interested in, and I will definitely make sure to come back to you with that. Just because it's so much fun to not only use the biggest and strongest cards every single time, sometimes it's just fun to use something that's underplayed or not represented as it should be, maybe is the right word to put it. But one thing every deck will have in common is hopefully consistency, because I like consistency quite a bit. And I think it's important that if you want to go for a climb on the ladder, you need to play something that A, you appreciate and you like, and second of all, that is consistent. We just saw our opponent get the tribute effect of the Jawbone Greatsword, which I kind of suspected that we could see something like this because the attack was weird. Because I assume seeing a Spark Catcher that our enemy is also playing a rather aggressive deck. But as it looks like they play some basically refill deck by getting Tributes effect going and then devouring our own units by stealing them, which is a fair game plan. The biggest problem about this is that we don't actually get the units in our void, as you can see, so we don't have access to them later, as we will check the enemy void, seeing the left-right Darkstalker that has just been sacrificed to draw 2 cards and gain 2 health, which could potentially be a spell that we would like to run as well, but most of the time I'm not the biggest fan of it. So since we're a bit behind right now, we will try to be proactive and put some pressure down, at least if you can call that pressure. Hopefully we can get our Gorgon Fanatic to connect. But it looks like we most likely won't, so we'll use the main phase of our phase right now instead of using it later on the enemy turn. I think they would basically need to block with everything, but we're gonna make this attack anyways. Maybe they go for some ridiculous block and we can blow them out with a rapid shot, which would be fine for me. But it looks like rather conservative blocking going on right now, maybe even letting it through, which I wouldn't mind at all. This is okay. Just play the Unseen Agent now. The left-right target caller could be awkward, just because through the Inspire effect we don't really want to make this unit dirty or make their hands dirty. We mainly want it to sit there so we can get our quick draw effects going. But as we can see, our opponent has quite some elaborate game plan going on themselves. Getting a second Brand without fear, which will be a problem. We only have answer for 1 right now. That is fine for now. We do have 2 rapid shots. We have 1 Annihilate. I mean, it's not the best yet. How would you destroy this right now? I mean, okay, just go ahead. I'm unsure about that. We could potentially see them sacrificing a unit to get overwhelmed. They sacrifice a unit anyways. Play another weapon, get another brand. Okay. That's rather elaborate. We cannot afford to punish them or hitting them back with a rapid shot right now. But I'm not sure if that is the right plan. I think dropping a brand without fear here would have been better in the long shot for them. But maybe they just outright win on this point and I'm talking nonsense. But that might be a bit too greedy here. I mean, they get rid of my threats that are not actual threats right now, just because nothing's happening right now. We get a second one, we keep the Annihilate. I think we're gonna ditch Island for now. We'll get the guy out here. And we will hope that this is enough weapon recursion for them. We get a 4/4 now, so we can deal with 1 brand with the left-right ranger. And we have 2 Annihilates for 2 other brands, in case they do come down this turn, or from now on, which they should. They sacrifice it as well. which is a fair thing to do. We will use this time we have to redraw some cards. We get another Annihilate, which is why I really like this card right now. There are a lot of good cards you can get rid of, like Sandstorm Titan, like every World Bearer Behemoth, every big time unit. We can get rid of Valkyrie Enforcers, everything that's a single faction. You could consider playing... they get another one. Rather unfortunate at this point. But maybe not really. Play it instead. I think trying to blow them out here could work rather well. Nicely done. I'm surprised that worked. Maybe you can hear that in my voice right now. But sometimes it's just the right thing. The opponent obviously tried to make something fun work, which is fine. Maybe they wanted to see how many brands they can get in one game. But if we stick to our game plan, knowing our strength and weaknesses of the deck, we can most likely come up with something interesting. And keeping those rapid shots back rather than blowing them early on just to get damage in would have been a bad call, as we've just seen. There could be a thing said for if we would have used them earlier, we maybe would have killed them already. But as we saw, they had quite some fighting power early on the board, especially small tokens, which didn't bother us too much. We did realize what our opponent is doing, but it was also rather slow. While we had minions on the board actively attacking, they decided to go for some shenanigans with weapon recursion, which worked out as we could see, but is also not doing anything but removing one unit in this exact turn, which if you're against 4 or 5 minions or units is not enough. So that's why I like, especially in aggressive decks, things like Finest Hour, Torch, Rapid Shot, all that stuff works like a charm, just because you can punish the enemy quite effectively if they step over the line you drew. And this is what just happened, and I'm really glad we got this fourth game in to show you exactly how this budget deck works. Right now, I'm still a little bit tryharding on ladder. Let's quickly showcase this just because maybe you think I'm a dumbass for posting this in casual. Sadly, I dropped down a bit in ranking, but I'm still kind of holding my own right now. I'm losing more points than I'm gaining when I'm winning, so that feels kind of bad. That's most likely due to MMR and my enemy having higher or lower, depending on how it actually works. But that's the reason why I'm not using the budget Felon deck right now. But I'm pretty sure it could hold their own on the ladder without a problem. I might even start a second account to showcase those budget decks in a fair environment. And maybe at the end of the month, I will give this a new spin yet again. Maybe I find some other additions to the deck that could be made. And if I realize that I'm not gonna do anything useful this season, and I can't actually compete in the top bracket basically, I'm gonna feel free to do something different. I might even showcase this little dinosaur deck that someone on Reddit came up with, but I first have to ask for permission, which is a really fun archetype to play with. I was actually trying to build something myself. I'm not sure if it's tier anymore. There it is. It's a rather old idea, but stay tuned. Give me feedback and let me know what you want to see. I appreciate that you guys take time to comment on my videos, also for the subscriptions. I thank you very much for every single one of you, and let me know what I can improve on, or just drop me feedback as mentioned. Thank you very much, and have a good night or evening. All right, here we go. Game number 1. And we can see a pretty decent starting hand. I think I would like to keep this around, so let's do just that. Remember, we try to be aggressive early on, early game, Aggression is what we do best with this deck. Also remember that this is a budget list, so going hard is what we do have to do against really strong, well-built decks. And seeing those colors already, we either win extremely early on or we won't succeed because this looks like heavy control. Seeing Permafrost already also makes me think that this is gonna be hard, but we're gonna try to do our best here. We're already kind of slow because our first threat has been dealt with already. I suppose we go for one more Justice here, equip Sword of Ikaria, get some damage going. Looks like they have an answer. Or Fastspell. Could be Equivocate right now, could be the Wasp. Looks like it's not the Wasp. At least not yet, maybe. We got some weapons we can put on this Groundwatch Paladin. And the enemy decides to go for all-out defense plan from the start, which is a fair thing to do. Also seeing that though, I think they might not have many answers around right now. So we're gonna try to push as hard as we can. That Permafrost actually hurt us quite a bit. They would be at nearly 14 or 16, 14. Would have gotten 2 attacks by the Oni Ronin. So that could have mattered. Maybe it didn't. So we will let this resolve. I expect a Harsh Rule next turn. But I can't just wait and do nothing. Maybe that was just to pop the Aegis because they have whatever. You never know. Could be the case. It is Equivocate. So we got around that by now. By just playing our big guy first. Because I suspect they would have just Equivocated this guy. Maybe. If they have really nothing left right now. But it looks like they still have things around. So that was actually a mistake. Playing your threats before attacking makes them see what's coming soonish. So usually you go for the attack first, not even play the power, don't show anything, go for the attack, and then play your newest guy. So if they want to deal with something because they feel threatened, they will maybe blow something away they wouldn't even have to blow away in the first place. Time, Justice, Primal Control, and we are dying here. It's not worth just blowing this around because we still have something in our way right now. But that's gonna be a hard matchup anyways for every aggressive Rakanolist, budget or not, it's not gonna matter. If they draw well, they win. If they draw badly, they lose. So it's not necessarily that we're on a budget in this list that we don't really get to our game plan, but the fact that they run pretty much only removal at this point. Most likely Sword of the Sky King, 8 attack, 8 armor, so that's kind of like a health buffer as well. As you can see, that was supposedly Find a Way. Yeah, it was. So most colors in this combination would run Find a Way to guarantee that they draw sigils out of their deck to meet the requirements they need. I expect we could see something like a Channeler Tempest. That could even be Temporal Distortion. Not sure about that, but I assume they would go for another sweeper here if they could. As you can tell, they try really hard to get stuff out of their deck to actually get good cards. We do have lethal next turn, so I would play around them not having anything by not playing right now. So let's keep the Crackshot Fugitive around for a bit. That would have changed nothing for us here. They got to 8 of the Huru, which stuns all of our units, draws them cards, gets them all tokens, and gets them 4 armor as well. They are attacking, so I suspect something bad like this. Maybe even another Great Parliament now to follow up. Or a Minotaur Ambassador works too. but we got pretty close considering we only run an extreme budget list with uncommons and commons. I think we're safe to drop from this game now. We could have tried, but one of the strengths of aggro decks, no matter if you're on a budget or not, is just the fact that you have fast games. So as long as you have more than 50% win rate, you will climb up no matter what. Also, you gotta consider the fact that we're playing against higher level players in general right now. So if you're just starting out, getting the sequences right might blow some other new players that are on a slower list than yourself out. Sometimes even hard because they didn't realize they could have changed something around that play. We got free power. We have one depleted, we have two depleted, we have one we could keep, which means we wouldn't be able to play that on curve only if we go for depleted first. I don't think this is feasible right now. It's pretty slow. We have so many 1 and 2 drops in the deck. So keeping 2 free drops seems not that great. Let's throw this back. I think I like this better. Could be wrong. We go for the undepleted power. Depleted this way around. We go for the depleted power first. Just get it out of our way so we don't have to chill. That's a bit meh, but nothing we can change about that. Let's play Rakano Outlaw first, which is one of our best units we have in the deck, especially if we equip a weapon. We could be killed by Torch here, which would set us back dramatically and start getting them Warcries. The War Helm is kind of okay, I think. That's not too great. I suppose we drop the 3-2 here. We could see Rampage as well as Shugo Standard after 5. Ornate Katana. Yeah, you know for a fact I'm gonna trade this, sir. Oh, but you are not, right. We could go Unpredictable Outlaw here and drop the weapon on it. Exhaust the Oni Ronin through the special effect and get 4 damage in. Next turn we do have Finest Hour. We would also accept a trade with a 4-2 just to get it out of the way. That's pretty much, in an aggro mirror like this is pretty much an all-in at this point. We just gladly take this trade. We can defend our guy. I wonder. I think we still go for this first and see if they want to do some weird trades. It looks like they don't. We don't have to use the fast spell this turn in. Let's get some gunslingers out there with nice synergy. That works nicely. We could see Finest Hour, Ornate Katana, maybe even Overwhelm Weapon or something like that, considering they run the War Helmet for charge. We could see a lot of things here. It looks like they're kind of on a budget themselves. That doesn't kill anything here. They don't even go for the Spellcraft, I think. They do. I'm okay with taking 6 here. We have way more damage on the board. We get another First Shot Rider up in just a second. And we also have a Whirling Duo. Let's go for Whirling Duo here to get some more pressure going. We have some nice lifesteal right now, which will do work for us. We nearly had lethal there, not quite yet. The Oni Ronin won't change that. We will push through this. If I'm not mistaken. Another Long Barrel, which is a cool card, especially in mirror matches like this. But as you can see, it wasn't quite enough for them. And we basically won the board by blocking in a good way while they went greedy with their attack. With their first Oni Ronin. While they had board, they could have just stayed put for a second. and be done with it. Let's see what they block here. We just pump whatever is not getting blocked and win the game. But most likely the 2-3, as it looks like. Oh. They're thinking hard, are they not? Let's get finest hour number 1, finest hour number 2. That's some decent reach there. And our Gunslinger synergy pretty much won us the game here. That was fantastic. A quick game, easily won by overwhelming the opposition on board instead of getting blown out with different spells and harsh rules and all that good stuff you guys know by now, probably. So I'm gonna be right back. And here we are again. Let's get maybe 1 or 2 more games in. I think it's, even though I was considering just cutting the loss, because in a video where I want to showcase a deck, I don't necessarily want bad games, if that makes sense, because if you just watch what other content creators do on YouTube, they most likely don't go for showcasing things that didn't quite work out. But I think in this case, playing a budget aggro deck like this, it's just important to realize that you're lacking a lot of tools at the moment, and that even though it might feel bad, it's not as bad as it may look. We could go for red here, get to 3, then 4, and get a Granadin. I think I'm okay with doing that, actually. Just planning ahead right now. I'm pretty sure I have to check the list later in case I'm screwing around right now. Ooh, that's pretty nice. Let's get quickly lost from our train of thought there. We take this without a doubt. Get 2 Warcries in already. Damn, what was I about to say? Now I forgot. Great. If I come back to that train of thought later, I'm gonna iterate on it. Let's see what Toast Face Killer is doing here. Seeing this list already, it kind of reminds me of the Tafrod Less deck that has been seen play by Second Blue, I think it was, in the ECL, in the Eternal Community League. Considering we don't have Gunslinger synergy right now, I go for the immediate damage here with the charge minion instead of the first shot rider. Just get some pressure going. Maybe they do something weird that they normally wouldn't do. People are pretty nervous about Whirling Duo just because it does so much for so little. We go ahead and torch this. We're fine with them having something. We will get this out of the way now. Even with Finest Hour, we don't care. They invest just as much as we do, even though we had 2 torches instead of just 1. But that is okay. Getting rid of the lifesteal and this big body that pumps other bodies. The Unseen Commander is just a really good unit to get rid of. They have to use a 2-mana spell to get rid of 1 minion, so they can't play too many things right now. And we see that is completely true. We will attack here. If they want to attack next turn, we will profit by attacking in with every single thing we have. They might get something like Bloodletter right now on their minion and get even more lifesteal, which would be meh, but it will only delay the inevitable. So we definitely go for the push here. We might even see them hold back to try and get something good. Suffocate works, but that's not it yet. There's a Bloodletter. Nice. We'll see an attack then, I suppose. Yeah, we do. They get 6 health. So we're equaling out and deal 3 damage right now. We can actually deal more. We stack the weapon on this girl. Get some damage in here. Keep the chain running of the Warcries. They will have to block this now. They heal for 5, which would make them be at 9. We attack with everything. Oh, he showed his Crown Watch tactic before I showed my thing. Alright. Well, you delay the whole thing for 1 turn. Yeah, that's what I thought. That works. So as you can see, I was thinking about making like a small introduction video about the whole budget system and how there's a small budget meta, if you could call it that. But I think Rakano just has the strongest theme, and it just feels overwhelming. And the fact that even non-budget decks, let's quickly check this actually, just so you guys can understand what I'm referring to right now. What cards in this deck are actually being played in actual deck, in top tier decks, or in the best version of that deck? Finest Hour is most of the time a 4-off if it's being played. Torch is pretty much in nearly every deck that can afford to run it. Rakano Outlaw is like one of the premium early game drops in general because of the quick draw on Warcry. Crownwatch Paladin was one of the best 2 drops, and I think it even had a 2/2 stat line at some point and got nerfed already. Aegis Warcry is just ridiculous, especially if we get like a sword on there. Oni Ronin is still seeing play in Skycrack aggro, and all the aggro decks that are something red, they run Oni Ronin. Oni Ronin is aggro just as everything else on this list, and this is basically the aggro minion. Extremely premium with a 2/1 stat line, and the Warcry is just super beneficial if you get going early. Steady Marshal, really good. I think most of those dudes here. Whirling Duo is also being played in actual decks like Midrange Rakano in my main list that I posted here on this channel already. Ornate Katana is seeing play in Skycrack aggro and different red decks that go for a aggressive strategy, especially nice to pair with Rakano Outlaw. So as mentioned, we lack late game, but if we can push through in the early game, it doesn't really matter that much. I'm unsure about the Unpredictable Outlaw this far. It feels lackluster, but it has a gunsling attack, so we can get our first shot Rider, our crack shot Fugitive, and Steady Marshal going faster, which is nice. Just more stats on the board makes us win the game way faster. But you could potentially put something else there like Rampage to push through bigger units. Things like that. But yeah, that was like a post-mortem of some sort. Just quickly check in because the list feels really good, well tuned, and as I mentioned earlier, it's nothing special. I'm pretty sure there's probably, if you check Eternal Warcry, there's probably a list that runs 100% of the same units, just because the idea and the options you have for a themed deck on this budget are so small that even if you don't know what you're doing, you kind of come up with a list that looks kind of like this. And even if not, as mentioned earlier, there's so many mainstays: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 slots are basically mainstays in every color that can afford to run those cards right now. So that's interesting to know at least. And I hope you enjoyed this. There's not much to say about Rakano. It has been explored all the way through. There, all the good options lie in front of us. It feels less interesting to play, in my own opinion, because your game plan falls down in 2 or 3 turns. You can even check from your starting hand if you're going to be able to win or not. But if you want fast, efficient games, you win up until Masters. You might hit a brick wall somewhere where people play extremely greedy control lists or just mid-range units, which will outvalue you over time the bigger they get. But if you get through with your game plan, you have fast games and win more than 50%, and you're gonna rank up. So to the whole meta thing back that I mentioned earlier, if you are on a serious budget and you want to rank up and be competitive, this might be your best plan or your best deck to stick with until you can actually afford whatever you're aiming for. This is also a pretty decent list for gauntlet grinding in case you actually enjoy this. And if you're a new player, don't be afraid to feel that Gauntlet is fucking boring, because it actually is. So if you feel like, oh, I should grind Gauntlet, I need golds. Nah, just go ranked. Even if you lose, it doesn't matter. You learn, you get experience, you learn how the synergies work, you start to understand what units and spells you can expect from which colors that your opponent is running. You will realize that when your opponent is running 3 colors and has blue, they probably have card draw, like Wisdom of the Elders or Hailstorm. Basically, if you want information on the game, don't just hide in Gauntlet or play against Forge AI. Try to get your feet wet, get in there, have fun. If you don't enjoy this deck, we have plenty of other decks either on Eternal Warcry or on this channel to figure out and check out. And just find something that you enjoy. Just because this is the best deck doesn't mean you have to enjoy it. Please don't get me wrong. I'm just showcasing this because I feel forced to show the best budget deck. There could be a world where a non-gunslinger Rakano list is better, but I was considering all the options, and a 3/3 for free with Warcry is less good than a 1/2/3 that you can then buff up in the same turn instead of playing one big dude per turn. So that's the reasoning behind how we got this list together. I didn't take this from anywhere, but I'm pretty sure there are other lists out there that look exactly the same. I will upload this to Eternal Warcry and then click on compare and see if we find anything that's close or resembles this exact list. I think there will be something in the 98 percentile, maybe even 99. Maybe not 100, even though it would make sense. Most likely the Unpredictable Outlaw will be cut from those lists because it feels meh. And yeah, I think that should be all for now. I will most likely mention some cards in the actual link that you can use to upgrade this, but I would take this as a complete package for now until you feel comfortable walking away from full aggro and going to a mid-range approach by adding 4, 5, 6, 7 mana cost cards. Because I think that might be the best way to go about this. If we cut all the Gunslinger synergy from the deck, the shell is not as impressive anymore. Like, we still have Oni Ronin and Rakana Outlaw, but it would look severely different. And that could do more harm than good. So I will most likely post a mid-rangey approach of Rakano with other different interesting units like the Unseen Commander we saw in the last game. And yeah, from there, we basically go from there. Yeah, would make sense to behave this way. So yeah, instead of explaining every single unit and trying to explain the synergies, I decided to actually jump directly into games and give like some thoughts about whatever I was showcasing before, because I realized my videos get pretty long and sometimes I just get lost in ranting and brabbling, like right now basically. So I'm trying to cut that down by getting right into the action and then at the end give some thoughts, because most of the gameplay, once you played Eternal for some hours, you don't need a dude telling you, oh, we find this hour here and we torch that. Should be pretty self-explanatory at some point. Even though it's still a budget list aimed at beginners, I think you can figure out how to play this deck on your own. And if you have any questions, if you got questions for replacements, if you have some cool ideas, just let me know. I'm more than happy to share my thoughts with you. And I always appreciate likes on the videos. I really, really do. It feels really amazing to see that people like what I'm doing. So if you feel that's worth it, please subscribe and like my video and let me know what I could improve on, what I'm doing well. And we go from there and keep improving until we meet where it's acceptable. Thank you very much for your time and catch you soon.
Yeah, being first with just 2 power, I'm gonna redraw this one. This looks better. Kind of stinks when you don't have a relic. We'll play the shiny finder here. 3/3 for 3 is solid. Hopefully we find another time off the top so we can play this Ageless Sentinel.
A small incision.
It's awkward. No need to just run it in here. I'll trade though. Really need that second time here. Once per turn, you may pay 2 to give one of your units unblockable, sacrifice it at end of turn, summon, give one of your units unblockable this turn. Okay, so he's hitting me for 3, that's fine.
Another glass.
Alright, found the second time sigil. Just going to play the flyer here though.
What have we here?
Okay, so he can hit us for 3 there. Huh. Curator's Spear. Okay, so he hits us for another 3, we go to 16. So he clearly has a trick, right? Yeah, I think I have to. No. He's got something. Oh, Devour, okay, sure. Just hit for 1. Yikes. Oh my god, what a punt. Okay. And he has a way to pump it. Okay, we got there. Even with a punt. Kamato again. I think I need to redraw this one. Gotta keep it. Hopefully I can just like rip powers off the top.
This will do the trick. Another glass.
So I misplayed and played this after I played my power on turn 2. I'm not very smart. I'm happy to trade 3 damage for 5, so... He's got a fast spell. Next turn we can give all our dudes Overwhelm. If we find Primal, we've got that. Alright. Nice. Gonna redraw this one. It's a reasonable hand because we've got all these playable 2-drops, but I think it just relies on the early game too much. I think I'm gonna go down to 6. Probably should have just kept that first hand, I guess. Because it's pretty much what I have now. Ah, he went to 6 also. That's good.
Argenport protects us!
Okay, so this is the 1/1 flyer.
Don't come any closer.
I'll make you
Young
proud.
gun, sure. So I have 2 choices. One is to hold up this. Yeah, let's just attack. Hopefully I can blow him out when he plays a weapon. It's fine.
Choose your side.
Yeah, that can die now. Does he have a weapon? Seems like it. No?
Ignite!
That's not good. Yeah, now I think I just lose.
This'll do the trick.
Pretty
We will
good.
rebuild.
Oh, so much to discover.
So if I block here, yeah.
Our steel is sharp.
Yeah, so that's game, right? Because, yeah. This hand looks very good, so I'm gonna definitely keep it. I think we're pretty much fixed for the game. Shiny Finder next turn. Next turn we've got Ageless Sentinel. Sure. We'll just play this again, because we won't want to play this till we can get it up to a 5-5, really.
By spell and steel.
There we go. Willing to trade here. Really? That was a weird block. Why wouldn't you kill this? Okay, so he's just gonna like make this thing huge. But we've got Ruination Sledge, so it's gonna be in for a world of hurt. Ooh. That sucks. What do I care though? I just attack with these two.
What have we here?
Guess I could have attacked with that also, because it was still just a 2/8. But we've got good weapons here. We know he has a 3/3 gem blade, so we can take that out with the Ruination Sledge. Put that on the flyer. And that's a very fast clock.
Location 42 by 23.
Okay, so we kill this. Yeah, this looks like a redraw here. This looks good. So here we can play this to get the second time sigil we need. Then we can play the Trailmaker. Yeah, this hand looks pretty good. Okay, so here we'll play
This'll do
the
the trick.
Trailmaker. Get a second fire. I don't think we need it, but just in case.
Be redeemed.
Pretty scared about the tricks he could have here. He didn't have one last turn though, so he would have had to draw it.
I am ready.
This could be scary. Yep. But we've got this to stop it in the air next turn, so I'm not too worried about it.
What have we here?
Be really good if we could amplify it with this. So if he plays a unit, this goes up to 3/3. We're in trouble if he has a pump. But he didn't have one last turn, so he would have had to draw it again. Sounds good. If he doesn't attack, he clearly doesn't have a trick. Now I just get to blow him out. That seems good.
Come, my friends.
Mm-hmm. Seven flyer seems pretty good.
Worm yourself.
It's now a 2-turn clock. Yeah, we've got it 2 ways, with this and with this. Alright. Very nice. Yeah, I think we have to redraw this one because there's not a whole lot going on. This one looks very slow, but maybe enough to win. The Tower Top Patrol will really help stall, and this will help us ramp, so that's great. Let's get the Primal. We do need a second time, but we're more likely to find it than we are Primal.
I see. A small incision.
No rush here, just gonna wait for us to draw power. We need 3 power for this, 4 power for the Sentinel. Sure. Play this, pass the turn.
Our steel is sharp.
We'll just wait patiently. A little afraid of what weapon he could have here. That's fine.
Axes up.
Location 42 by 23. Reinforcements! What have we here?
Remember the Valkyrie!
Yeah, we'll just pass the turn here.
Trust in yourself.
Drink up! Life's too short!
I love a good fight.
Yikes. I think I'm gonna take this out now. Yeah, can't be aggressive.
Trust in yourself.
Location 42 by 23.
Alright. Kill an attacking enemy with cost 3 or less.
You will
got
pay
it.
for your crimes!
We pass judgment.
A small incision.
Good thing is my life total is very high. We'll just wait. Sure.
Reinforcements!
I'll make them regret this.
Holy cow. So I could play this twice. I think I just take 12. Oh man, that's so awkward. No, I just take 12. Yikes! Okay, there's our boy. What does he have? Oh my god, really? So if I take 7, 8, 9, am I just dead? So if I block here, 3, 4, 5, block here, block. So 2, 4, 6, 9, 15, so yeah, I'm just dead. Yeah, I think this hand is pretty reasonable, so I'm going to keep it. Play this, get our second time. Next turn we play the Trailmaker for our fire.
I love a good fight.
This'll do the trick.
I think it's probably worth it to just save this. Especially with him being stuck on 2. Now we're just going wide. Game should be over.
A small incision.
Darn it. So next turn I can play the Welding Torch. One off. Yeah, I think you redraw this one because no primal means you're not playing the most powerful cards in your hand, and Pack Beast isn't really ramping you anywhere, so we'll redraw this. This looks pretty good. Because you could play this turn 1. Ah yeah, this is good. Opponent went down to 6. And you can play this on turn 3. Got turn 4 plays if we get there. So next turn we play the power, play Porcelain Mask.
Look inward.
Killer. Well, should probably be able to silence whatever he puts it on. Those are all good, but he's really far away from being able to do anything with them. Power off the top would be like the best draw possible.
What have we here?
Stinks.
I see.
A parting gift.
He needed double justice for one of the cards. I can't think.
Come, my friend.
Oof, goes to that. Battle Master. Beast Master.
Remember the Valkyrie!
So we know he's got another unit in hand that he's going to play. If he attacks with anything, he's just in trouble.
The Valkyrie are born anew!
I just take this out? Yeah, probably.
To my side!
Sure.
Trust in yourself!
So if I do this, what happens? He eats here. Blocks there, maybe? Blocks there. So that's 3. Sure. 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 It's taking like 9. We have a 4-drop. Yeah, I think I'm willing to keep this hand. Just would be worried about what we would get if we mulliganed. That's a very good draw. So next turn we play this, play this.
I love a good fight.
I can take 3 this turn, it's not a big deal.
Swords, sharp and true.
Sure. So play this, play this. Let's offer the trade first, I guess.
I see.
Like to get rid of Quartermaster as soon as possible. 6.
We forge what we need.
Fly, fly!
Sure. Pink for 1. Needs 8 for that. That stinks. Is he gonna take that out? No. Ouch, buddy. Yeah, that was so good. Okay. All right.
Hey y'all, this is Erson, and welcome back. Welcome back to Dramatic Opening to Eternal. I'm gonna do something a little different because someone requested in the comments, I think it was Barry, if I'm mistaken. I see that a lot, it must be Barry. But someone mentioned a request for budget builds for people just getting into Eternal before you really start amassing a collection. And I wanted to highlight two that I think are pretty well seasoned, pretty proven, and pretty viable. And I will leave a comment... leave a link in the comment to both. There's a site called Eternal Warcry, which is kind of a good source for community decks. And these two are up there, so obviously I'll leave a link. But you also see them on screen, so you'll kind of know how to build them. But, so, first things first, if you're doing a budget deck build and you want to go ladder, your best chances for success likely will be either aggro or tempo. It's kind of like the nature of every other card game. Control is a really difficult archetype to build without a really decent collection, some powerful cards, because you need a really big closer, a big finisher, which is usually not going to be at uncommon or anything like that. Probably going to be at legendary, and also you just don't have the functional cards to do it, all the draws, all the sweepers and things like that. So control is a really hard, particularly hard archetype to build in a budget. Combo is kind of the same way. Sometimes combos come up which are jank as fuck and they're great and they can be hit without any really expensive cards, but sometimes there's really one card you want to break, and sometimes that's pretty much high in rarity. So I'm going to give you two builds today that are aggro-centric, which A is kind of more or less my preferred archetype. I do dip into control sometimes, but I think if I had to guess, I'm more of an aggro player at heart. And they're both aggro archetypes, and I can kind of tell you that they look pretty solid. So the first one's going to be kind of a generic, decent budget build where you apply some shift stone for some rares. The next one will be a little cheaper than that even, but they both have a decent pedigree, so let's take a look. So first we're going to talk about a budget Skycrag aggro. I mentioned when I played Skycrag the other day on the channel, and the other day it was like a month and a half ago. Here's a budget variety. Now there's a couple rares in here, so I might as well go through those first, or let's talk about the rares first. Again, they're not required, but they do help a lot, and these rares here are more or less stuff that you'll always want if you ever want to play these colors of aggro or aggro-y decks that involve fire and primal. So as I mentioned, Skycrag is kind of a preeminent color for budget. Try that again. For aggro, also budget because aggro. But yeah, let's talk about the rares real quick. First rare I want to talk about is Champion of Fury, or the Furry Champion, or Champion of Furry, whatever you want to call it. This dude is a 4-of in the deck. It's bread and butter aggro. It's a 4/2 charge overwhelm for 2. If you have the influence requirements down, which are relatively easy, it's a bananas strong card. Like, it's super crazy. It's what a lot of aggro is anchored on in these colors, and you want 4 of him eventually. That'll cost you 3,200 shift stone. Thereabouts. 800 a pop, though, so, you know, things could be worse. But again, if you ever play aggro in these colors, like, you'll never regret having him. He's also, if you're thinking about rotation, he is set 2. So, again, set 1 is probably going to rotate, not set 2, so he's a pretty safe investment. So again, but I don't even know when rotation happens, if it's going to happen, or how they're going to do it. So don't judge anything on that, but in case that's in the back of your mind, I know it was in the back of mine, he's a pretty safe bet that you'll probably use many decks down the line, many moons. Pyro Knight's another rare. Chances are you have this from, I think you get a Pyro Knight from the basic Rakano deck, if I'm not mistaken. I think you get one of these. So you have that one already, and if not, 800, but I don't think you need to. I think you get one for free. Plug her in there. That's why there's only a 1-of in this deck, I think, because you get that one for free with the basic Rakano. And she is normally in the... I'll show you actually probably the Skycrag deck I'm using on ladder right now. And it's also a good time. Sorry, I'm going all over the place today because it's toward the end of my recording day, and I'm kind of flaking a little bit. Right now, the meta on the ladder that I found, at least where I am, still kind of climbing up because we just had the reset in the middle of gold somewhere. Gold 1 or... No, not gold 1. Gold 2 or gold 3. Either top of gold 3 or bottom of gold 2 at this point. Haven't had that much time to climb yet. It's pretty aggro friendly. I've been playing some mid-range stuff and some top-end kind of greedy builds, and I was getting my ass handed to me. Like, I went on like a 9-game losing streak, and I'll be honest with you, that shit just doesn't happen in general, so I was getting really frustrated, so I said, fuck it. Getting a Skycrag aggro deck, and then I won like 7 in a row. Aggro is pretty favored now, because I think there's a couple decks that are out there trying to do some greedy stuff, and you'll punish that pretty well. So anyway, aggro's a good time for aggro right now. But we'll see. That always shifts. Next, is this a rare? That's a rare. That's what I figured. So Long Barrel, another really good rare. It's from the newest set. So you have a pretty good chance of hitting this, I think, in your packs if you do get it. It's a really nice thing. It's a +2/+0 weapon for 1 with Overwhelm, which is really good to get an extra damage in. Plus, you can spellcraft for a total of 4 for Piercing Shot, which again gets more damage through, can wipe out a blocker, get even more damage through. It's a very functional aggro weapon. There's only 2 of here, so it won't cost you too much dust. But it's pretty solid. And then this is the big investment. Shogun Scepter is from set 1, so obviously, oh god, but it's been a staple of aggro for so long, and it's kind of hard to see a Skycrag deck without it. I think you get one of these in the basic Kano deck that you get when you start the game, so don't quote me on that. Please don't kill me, but I think you do. But again, this is solid. It's a 2/2/1 weapon for 3. Gives the unit Warcry, which is solid, or if it already has Warcry, you get Warcry 2, Warcry stack, BT dubs, and on summon you get a 2/1 Oni Ronin with Warcry summoned on your side of the board. So again, I mean, this does everything. If you have a unit with Quick Draw, it makes that Quick Draw more dangerous. It goes ahead and drops another Oni Ronin on your side, get another unit swinging in for damage, then Warcries and makes your next units bigger. It gives that unit Warcry that has this damn thing, and it's pretty cheap for the stats and the stuff it gives. So again, aggro staple. It's a 4 of, again, you're going to invest your Shift Stone in something, right? And again, there's no legendaries here. So 3,200 for all 4. Could be worse. All right, Torch, you get all 4. They're bread and butter. We're going to talk about that. Any other rares here? Yeah, okay, so there's 1 Crest of Fury in this. And again, this is an interesting addition. I don't know why they put a 1 of Crest. I think just to get the influence a little more evil, because, you know, Seed of Fury and the Skycrag Banner, these are relatively easy to acquire, and these are very important for your influence. Diplomatic Seal, same deal. Very good for fixing influence. The Crest, I don't think this is absolutely necessary. I'm not sure if now somehow in the adventures you get this for free. I'm not sure it's a 1 of. I don't know why they did it like this, but if you have a Crest of Fury, great. If not, no big deal. But it's a depleted power, but you have the Scout. And in aggro decks, I guess the Scry or Scout isn't as mission critical. So I could probably see just switching this out for... I mean, I probably just needed another double power is all, so I guess just pick your sigil of choice. That could be a weaker for it, but it's not going to kill you. It's not going to kill too much of your tempo, ideally. So that's the only rares in here. That's it. The rest are commons and uncommons. So let's go down the list. Grenadin Drone, bread and butter common. You play it for 1, you get a 1/1 for 1, you get another 1/1 for 1 for free. So it's kind of like a 2/2 for 1. Except in 2 different bodies, which helps in aggro because it gets you around things if you want to go wide. Oni Ronin, he's been there from the beginning. He's always been useful in aggro, and he still is. 2/1 for 1, nice aggressive statting, plus Warcry to make your next stuff bigger. He dies eventually, but he does his job. I've been there from set 1. He's good. Snowcrest Yeti, really good uncommon from set 2. 2/1 for 1, kind of statted like an Oni Ronin, but the advantage is it's an Aegis. This is an annoying threat to remove for the opponent. It always feels bad double torching something that has Aegis. And bonus points, you put a Shogun Scepter on this thing, it becomes a 4/2 Aegis, and then it gets really annoying. So Aegis threats are really good. He's an early Aegis threat, so use him. All positive. Dusk Raider. This will enable so many kills, it's scary. A 2/2 for 2 with Inspire. Units you draw get Berserk. And to put candy on the lotion pudding. I know that sounds really weird, but god damn it, I'm going with it. It gets Nightfall, so you draw 2 cards next turn. As long as she doesn't get removed, you have a pretty good chance of hitting something Berserk. Now, Berserk. It's an ability that a card gets. You can, the first time you attack, you have an option to attack twice, or at some point, right? It gives you an option to attack twice at some point. Let's put it that way. It doesn't have to be the first time. But once you attack twice, in one turn. Then you get an ability called Reckless, which means you have to attack every turn after that. Doesn't really hurt too much on an aggro deck, but, you know, you've been warned. But again, imagine dropping Duskgrader on 2, Nightfall, drawing Champion of Fury with 2 and 2 down and influence. Opponent is playing slow, you have an empty board. It's 8 damage from the Champion of Fury the turn he comes down because of charge. That's insane. That's a lot of damage. So Duskgrader enables some pretty broken stuff with this, especially if you have like any number of things like Shugo Standards, Shugo Tactic. It just gets broken real fast. Hot Blood Barbarian, 2-1 for 2 with Berserk. Again, Berserk is always nice. You also can discard extra power to draw Temper, and this is really useful. It buffs your next upcoming stuff, and you can always do ping effects. There's a lot of useful cards out there with, you know, X/1 stats, so that ping gets rid of them. Also, that extra 1 damage can help and threaten the destruction of a very useful unit if the enemy decides to block, so they always have to start thinking about that temper. It's a really good tempo play, and again, Berserk is good for every other reason that Berserk is good. Quick damage in early. Rakano Outlaw, been here from set 1, uncommon, 2-2 for 2, quick draw Warcry. Quick draw is very valuable in aggro because it forces the opponent to choose to either basically give up a unit early or take damage. Warcry is always awesome, but putting like Shogun Scepter or Long Barrel on a Rakano Outlaw, it just gets ugly real fast if the opponent doesn't have a good blocker, because that's already 4 damage, quick draw. So good luck trying to block that with more than 1 unit. So you'll always trade positively, plus you have a quick draw. Thunderbird is an interesting choice. I don't know if I would have put this in here, but I guess it's not bad. It gives you a 2-2 for 3 with Flying and Aegis. Again, Aegis threats annoying, Flying is evasion, and 2-2 is not a bad body. Put a Shogun Scepter on there, and you pretty much can swing in for some good damage. Pyroelementals are really, really cool. Again, from the new set, from the Fall of Argenport. You've probably gotten a couple of these already if you've been playing your dailies. 4/3 charge for 6, which wouldn't be great, except it costs 4 less, so it means it costs 2 if you played a spell. I'm going to give you a hint. You're probably going to play a spell at some point. The Temper from Hot Blood Barbarian would be 1, Torch would be 2, any of the spellcrafts would be 3. You got some spells out here, and you can make this really worth your while, and just dropping a 4/3 charge on turn 2 is fucking backbreaking. Imagine if it has Berserk. Ah! So, again, really, really cool synergy card. You don't have that many spells in here for a reason, but you will be using them, and that's a really good reason to pop that blocker with that Torch, get that Pyroelemental, go down and swing for face, because that's what we do with aggro decks. God damn it. Alright. Permafrost, very, very important. It's, again, been good since set 1. It still is. It's a curse, so it's not a spell, so it won't activate Pyroelemental. That's a big difference. Just don't make that mistake. God knows I've done so. 1 power, 1 blue influence, stun the cursed unit for as long as it is cursed. So basically, you put this on something that doesn't have endurance. Endurance breaks this, by the way, because endurance units can't be cursed. I mean, try that again. Endurance units can't be stunned. Derp. But Permafrost is another good way. They put down a giant, like, 6-7 unit and go, come at me, bro, and just Permafrost and go around it and go, good luck, and then you win. So Permafrost, really key for aggro, especially for any aggro running Primal. Anything low to the ground, Permafrost is money. If you see a Sandstorm Titan, you'll feel sad, but that's just kind of how it goes. And again, Torch, the be-all, end-all. It's the Lightning Bolt. It's one of the best cards in the game. It always has been. You get 4 for free. Frickin' play it. In any red deck, you will not be disappointed. Next question. All right, sigils are sigils. Again, Seed of Fury, basic, important stuff. You want as many multiple influences as possible to get Champion of Fury running where you need him to go. You need double influence for Shogun Scepter as well, and Long Barrel. So that's not a joke, right? You want these. So the Skycrake Banner as well, pretty awesome. All useful, all good. Diplomatic Seal, again, good for fixing early to make sure you don't have any problems. And then the last thing I want to mention, well, 2 things, I guess. Granite Waystone, a 1 of. I'm not sure why it's a 1 of, but it is. If you have 4 influence, at some point you get a 1/1 Grenadin created in your hand. It's card advantage. Gives you another body. You can put a Shogun Scepter on it and call it a day. And Shugo Standard, a new unique card from the new set. It has a transmute ability, means it turns into something. When you have 5 power on board, and that means it turns into a Shugo Tactic, which is right there on the left, which gives a unit +4/+2 and Overwhelm. If you wanted a closer, baby, this is it. Early on, it acts as a power that's depleted for 1 red influence. So, that's the budget Skycrag deck, and I'm gonna pop up the deck that I'm playing on ladder right now, so you have an idea of how close it actually is to what I'm playing. So I'm playing this one. Skycrag deck wins plus market, because the previous one I played didn't have a market. So as you can see, there's a lot of the similar cast of characters. I mean, obviously some of the things are a little more optimized, but a lot of the tools are the same. Long barrels, permafrost, Shogun scepters. Those should all look familiar. Oni Ronins, Pyro Knights, yeah, we have a 4 of. Snowcrest Yetis, Champion of Fury is familiar, Duskgrade is familiar, Rakano Outlaw is familiar. And the only really big stuff are these crazy things. Sensari Brigands, which are fantastic, double damage to players in charge. You can imagine this being pretty broken with a couple war cries on it. Ixten Merchant for, I mean, we'll talk about merchants altogether. She's easily my favorite merchant because damn! But also enables the red market, which is super good for aggro decks. Got a Shugo Standard in there for fun. Mindfire to get around the last couple blockers. Caleb's Choice to stop a Harsh Rule. Factory Coda for putting extra pressure when you have nothing else to do. And for control decks. And Obliterate to get the last little damage or break a big blocker. That's what she merchants out. And then the biggest upgrade to any Skycrag aggro deck would be Vadius Clanfather. It's the aggro legendary. It's a 3/2 for 3. A lot of influence. Aegis quick draw, so all the kind of hard to remove / threatening threats you want. He is that at 7. If you ever flood to 7, you're probably doing something wrong, but I can count a handful of games, honestly, where I did get to 7. I played Steelfang Chakram, and I rode Chakram to victory because it just gets really, really annoying. Because Chakram, not only do you play one on him, and he becomes a 7/2 Aegis quick draw, but when he dies, inevitably, at some point he will die. The Chakram goes right back in your hand, and you have 4 attack to put on anything else you want to kill your opponent with. So, Chakram is really cool. It is an individual card on its own, too. You can get it. But Vadius is the real big legendary. If you ever really want to invest seriously in playing Skycrag aggro, you need 4 of him. But again, for budget, you don't need to worry about that. But as you can see, like a lot of very similar cards, not that much different, minus just the merchant package, the Brigand, and the Vadius, really. So, you know, go out there and have fun. It's a really strong budget deck. It does really well, and the guy wrote it to Masters, so no joke. It's been verified. The next deck I want to talk about is Budget Rakano. Also going to aggro, but if you feel like Rakano is more your style, I actually don't have all the cards. I don't have these uncommons, but no worries. We can talk about them anyway. You're going to see some familiar faces, some not so familiar. So, here we have Rakano Budget. This one is also, you know, about beating face. I mean, it is about beating face. Let's not lie about it. But there's a couple interesting, fun synergies you can play with, a little more than expected, and a little more evasion to work with. So, first and foremost, you're going to see this guy, Oni Ronin 4 of. Now, the neat thing about this deck I want to talk about real quick, this is nothing but commons and uncommons. There's not a single rare in the whole thing. And the dude who came up with this, named Crimson King, I think I was Grimfan, sorry, I should mention the name so I don't take credit for these decks. Crimson King rode this from, I think, Bronze 1 to Masters last season, unchanged throughout the entire laddering process. His goal was to prove you could do it with a deck with commons and uncommons, and he did it. So, it is possible. Play skill is the most important thing with this kind of sort of thing. I mean, obviously it'd be easier with a stronger deck, sure, but you can do it. So, only commons and uncommons, let's go. The name of the game here is Synergy. So, Oni Ronin, we talked about him already. Don't need to talk about him anymore. Crownwatch Paladin, pretty much an Oni Ronin for 1 more with Aegis. So, again, just as good, harder to remove, and gives you Warcry. Some of these cards are shinies, so, you know, for fun. Barbarian we talked about. Rakano Outlaw we talked about. No need to go in depth here. Here is the stuff that Rakano opens for you that Skycrag doesn't. So, first of all, Coastal Battle Mage. Really, really cool uncommon from the new set. 3/3 for 3, which is a decent stat line. Plus, he gets Aegis, which is awesome. Plus, when you play a spell, he gets +1/+1 this turn. Yeah. You synergize that with, I don't know, Torture, Invigorate, Finest Hour, and you've got yourself pretty badass, beefy dude. We'll talk about the spells later. Silver, you also notice this is a little more spell heavy than the Skycrag aggro. There's obviously reasons for that, because you can, and it makes sense. Now, Silvering Familiar, this is an evasive threat. It's flying. It's Aegis, so it can't be removed easily, and it lifesteals. So this is what we call a primo weapons carrier. Okay? Put a weapon on this. Beat face. Heal yourself. Beat their face. Win. It's a fantastic, annoying card to see in sealed, and also pretty good in budget decks on a ladder. It's a really nice addition to this, and it's an evasion that Skycrag aggro kind of has. Yeah, they have the Thunderbird, but I would take this any day. Just way more annoying to deal with. And then last but not least, we have Whirling Duo, one of the coolest new cards from the Dusk Road set. I remember when I was playing Skycrag aggro in my early days, before I got a decent collection on the ladder, seeing this card made me smile. 3/3 for 3 charge lifesteal. Baby, baby, does it get better. Dropping this on 3 and another one on 4 if the opponent's durdling around just feels so oppressive. Gain 9 life, the opponent's 9 health down, and you've still got 2 3/3s on board. Ugh! Really cool card at uncommon. I love these things. Alright, attachments. A lot of weapons, a lot of spells. It's kind of unit light, so you got to be a little smarter with your attacks here. It's interesting they went so unit light. Ornate Katana. I'm surprised this wasn't actually in the Skycrag deck, because this is actually a pretty solid card. It's +2/+0 for 2, but it draws you a card. It replaces itself as basically a cantrip weapon, which is really, really cool. And for aggro, you need gas, and this gives you gas. Again, it's a common, it's very, very useful, and it replaces itself, so you really can't ask for any more. Put this on a Silverwing Familiar and profit. Put this on a Coastal Battle Mage and profit. Put on an Arcano Outlaw and profit. And then you get a card to keep your gas going. All good, baby. Copper Hull Cudgel. Really, really cool weapon. For some reason, I didn't get enough of these. What set is this from? Omens. Yeah, my Omens collection isn't very good. +2/+2 for 3, which is a little expensive, but when the wielder dies, play a 2/2 Minotaur. Yeah. Yeah. When your guy dies, you get another dude. Another body to keep the pressure up. Awesome. Way to keep the pressure going. That's what aggro decks like to do. Now, Sword of Ikaria. This is a relic weapon, so it goes on your avatar. Really good to clear blockers so your units can go in and keep swinging. It's as a Warcry at baseline too, so that gives the next unit in your deck or weapon +1/+1. So better ways to clear the way forward, or in a pinch, if your opponent trades, you can put this down on you and swing to his face too if you want. So Sword of Ikaria, again, I played 4 of these when I was playing Arcano aggro on the ladder, so it's very familiar. This feels very, very nice. Morningstar, pretty damn solid. 3/3 for 4, Overwhelm. It gives anything you want trample. What can I say? Put it on Whirling Duo, 6/6 charge of lifesteal, Overwhelm. Yeah, Whirling Duo on 3, Morningstar on 4. Your move. Brutal. Arcano Outlaw, same thing. So Morningstar, super powerful. It's a little high on the curve, which we only play 2 of, but it does the job, baby. So, Finest Hour, which you have 4 of, I think, from the beginning Arcano set. Torch, which you have 4 of from the Arcano set. 2 of the best spells in the game coming together in the same faction. Why would you not play both? Sleepers 3 is oppressive as hell. Can make lifesteal blowouts here and here. Can make the Coastal Battle Mage a 7/7 that turn. Or a 5/5 Quick Draw Warcry. Finest Hour has saved many things. It's protected against removal pretty well too. Something tries to torch your Arcano Outlaw, go ahead and Finest Hour it. Don't worry about it, baby. It reinvigorates a new tool from, I think, the Dusk Road. Yeah, it gives one of your units Endurance and +1/+1 this turn for each battle skill. A, Endurance is good because it gives you blockers. B, it's a very good surprise block move, and you put it on a Coastal Battle Mage that's exhausted. Suddenly you have a 5/5 Endurance. No, he has a 6/6, I think, wouldn't it be? Because he gets Endurance, he gets a spell at 4. No, that would be a 5/5. It would be a 5/5 Endurance. No, and a 6/6 because of the Endurance. Yeah, no shit. So you get a 6/6 Aegis blocker suddenly out of nowhere, and then you swing in for the win. So Reinvigorate, good surprise spell. No one plays around it, and because it's not very common to see on the ladder, and you'll get some wins from that just for free. Last but not least, the Sigil Base is the Sigil Base. Granite and Waystone we talked about, gives you another body in Grenadin. Arcano Banner, Seed of Glory, same reason. You want your influence, though the influence requirements here I think are less severe than the previous deck. You just need basically 1 of everything, except for the Coastal Battle Mage, yeah. So, that's why we're doing it that way. And now, Crown Watch Standard is what I want to talk about. This is just like the Shugo Standard with the Shugo Tactic, but Crown Watch Tactic is arguably better. I think it's one of the best ones, actually. So, if you ever have 5 power, this ceases to be a power card, and it becomes a Crown Watch Tactic, which is a fast spell for 2, which gives a unit +3/+3, try that again, and lifesteal this turn. Again, ekes out the win, gives you that last bit of health to survive and trade and race. Super powerful, really, really annoying to fight through, and between 4 of these and 4 Finest Hours, you can do some serious work if you play smart. And like I said, Crimson King proved it, man. He made it to Masters on the back of this one. So A, props to him for playing awesome. B, you can do it. It just takes time and skill. So hopefully that's helpful for people. I know that was asked for a while ago, and I took a little while to go through it, but I didn't want to just put out some stupid budget deck and be like, yeah, you know, it's a budget deck, good luck. These two actually have some pedigree behind them. God, I'm stumbling on my words like crazy tonight. What is wrong with me? These two have some pedigree behind them, so I wanted to share them with you, and hopefully you can start off your Eternal journey pretty well and have some fun. So I hope that was useful. Again, if you enjoy the Eternal content, please go ahead and give me a thumb and give me a comment if you feel like it, because I do enjoy playing this game, and I will keep putting stuff up on the channel occasionally, but if people start watching it or really enjoying it, I'll do more of it, because, hey, that's what people like. So that's the 2 budget suggestions I have to really get in and having lots of good fun on the ladder, if that is where you are inclined. And for now, I have been Urs. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you all next time in Eternal. Who knows what'll come up next. Take care. Till then, bye.
As I have foretold, sire, strangers approach from the Shadowlands.
But what do they want? Vengeance? Have I done them some wrong? We have come.
Our memories give us strength.
What do you seek?
The end and the beginning.
We stand strong.
For those we've lost.
We will tear you from your false throne.
I've heard bold words before.
Our purpose is clear.
Our oath is broken.
We'll be asking the questions.
Halt!
Proud to serve.
By whatever means necessary.
From on high, we strike.
You have no power here.
The shadow follows in our wake.
We forge what we need.
We stand united.
You were no match for me.
Do you feel it?
What? What is this?
Come, let us begin again.
No! It cannot be!
We'll be asked.
We shall
take
what has weakened us.
You must use the Eternal Throne.
It is forbidden. There must be another way.
State your purpose.
Now, fire!
We stand strong. Our memories give us strength.
Our oath is broken. We forge what we need.
Please, sire, save us.
Your time has ended. We stand united.
We all change.
There are too many of them.
A new age dawns.
By whatever means necessary.
throne. Use it.
I have no choice. What have I done?
No!
At last, the pact is broken.
What is happening?
The righting of a great wrong.
You deceived me.
You deceived yourself. The throne's true power is far too